I grew up in a small town where the whispers of gossip traveled faster than the speed of light. Everyone knew everyone else's business, and secrets were hard to keep. My name is Jack Hayes, and I was a simple man. I worked as an auto mechanic, a job I loved, fixing cars and occasionally helping locals with their issues. But my life took a turn when I married Emily. Emily was the kind of woman who turned heads wherever she went. Stunningly beautiful, with long auburn hair and sparkly green eyes, she was the biggest catch in our town, and I felt fortunate to have won her heart. We were married for 7 years, and for most of that time, I was convinced we had the perfect relationship. We lived in a cozy two-bedroom house with a white picket fence, and I believed our love was unbreakable. Things started to change when Emily got a job at a marketing firm in the city. The firm was fast-paced, full of young professionals who were ambitious and seeking success. Emily was excited about working there, and I supported her fully. I encouraged her to go to networking events and company gatherings, thinking it would help her grow in her career. After all, I wanted her to be happy, but little did I know that those events would lead to something much darker. As the months passed, Emily started coming home late more often. At first, I shrugged it off, thinking she was just busy with work. However, as the late nights turned into weekends away for business retreats, I began to feel an unsettling knot in my stomach. Calls that were once frequent dwindled down to sporadic texts. The intimacy we shared faded, replaced with a growing distance that I couldn't quite put my finger on. One evening I stood in our living room, the smell of her favorite perfume lingering in the air when I found the first sign of trouble. I noticed her phone lying on the coffee table, screen lit up. A message came through, and without thinking I picked it up. It was from a man named Darren, someone I'd never heard of before. The message read, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Let's make it special." My heart sank. I put the phone down, feeling the weight of betrayal pressing down on my chest. I tried to brush it off, convincing myself it was just a harmless flirtation. But as days turned into weeks, more messages came, each one more intimate than the last. I confronted Emily about Darren, and she dismissed it, assuring me it was just work-related. But I could see it in her eyes, the flicker of a lie. Doubt crept into my mind, and I started to gather the strength to uncover the truth behind Emily's charming facade. Every time I saw her with that sly smile on her face or heard her laughter from the other room, I felt more and more like an outsider in my own home. A sense of betrayal began to fester inside me, and rage replaced the love I once felt. My heart was broken, but my resolve was forming. I was determined to find out what was really going on. If Emily was cheating on me, I needed to see it for myself. I started to keep tabs on her, following her after work, lurking in the shadows as she met with her colleagues for drinks. I told myself that I was being a detective, but deep down, I knew I was just a heartbroken husband clinging to the shreds of his dignity. My gut told me I was right, but I needed proof. I planned my next move carefully, and as I did, a dark path of revenge started to form in the back of my mind. Would I be able to confront Emily with the truth, or would I let my emotions guide me into a darker place? It was time to find out. The following week, I decided to take my sleuthing to the next level. I knew that Emily was going to a company party on Friday night, and I made sure to keep tabs on her. The plan was simple. I would follow her to the venue, and if anything seemed off, I would confront her right then and there. My heart raced as I thought about what I might uncover, but a part of me felt sick with dread. On Friday evening, I parked my old truck a few blocks away from the upscale restaurant where the party was being held. I wore a baseball cap pulled low over my eyes, hoping to remain inconspicuous. As I sat there, I watched the well-dressed couples arrive one by one, their laughter echoing in the night air. My stomach twisted with anxiety, and I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. When I finally spotted Emily, my heart dropped. She looked radiant in a red dress that hugged her curves just right. I felt a pang of pride, mixed with a sharp stab of jealousy. My wife was the center of attention, laughing and chatting with her colleagues. But it was who she was laughing with that made my blood boil. Darren stood close to her, leaning in just a bit too much, the way a man leans in when he's trying to get a little too familiar. As I watched them, I felt a rush of emotions, anger, betrayal, and a desperate need for closure. I wanted to storm inside, to yell at her, to demand answers. But I needed to be smart. I had to wait for the right moment to gather evidence before I confronted her. I followed them as they moved from the restaurant to a nearby bar. I kept my distance, observing from a dark corner, but it was becoming harder to contain my emotions. My heart raced as the minutes passed, and with every laugh that escaped Emily's lips, I felt the knife of betrayal twist deeper. Then it happened. I watched in disbelief as Darren leaned in closer to Emily, whispering something in her ear that made her throw her head back in laughter. My fists clenched at my sides, and I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I saw Darren slip his hand around her waist. There it was, the physical contact that confirmed my worst fears. I was losing her, and she was slipping right through my fingers. I pulled out my phone and snapped a few pictures, my hands shaking as I captured the evidence I needed. Every click of the shutter felt like a bullet piercing my heart. I couldn't believe this was my life. The woman I adored, my wife, was being unfaithful right in front of my eyes. I felt like a fool, all those nights spent trusting her, believing in our love. After about an hour, I saw Emily and Darren head out of the bar together. My heart raced as I hurried after them, determined to follow them wherever they were going. They walked hand in hand, and I kept a safe distance, praying they wouldn't notice me. They reached a nearby hotel, and I knew then that this was it. This was the confirmation I needed. Standing outside the hotel, I watched as they walked through the lobby, their fingers intertwined. I felt an overwhelming urge to confront them, to barge in and confront Emily, but I stayed rooted to the spot. If I did that, it would destroy any chance I had of getting the closure I needed. I needed to be smart about this. As they disappeared into the elevator, I turned away, my heart heavy with the knowledge I now possessed. Betrayal was a bitter pill to swallow, and I felt as if I had been stabbed in the back by the person I trusted most. I drove home in a daze, the city lights blurring past me. I felt hollow, as if all the love I had for Emily had evaporated and left nothing behind. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of dread that clung to me like a shadow. I knew I needed to confront Emily, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had to plan my approach carefully. There was no way I was going to let her walk away unscathed after what she had done. She had betrayed me, and I would not let that go unanswered. I spent the day devising a plan, fueled by anger and betrayal. I wanted her to feel the pain I felt. I wanted her to realize how much she had hurt me and how easily she had thrown our marriage away. Revenge was on my mind, and I knew I had to execute it flawlessly. The pieces started to come together. I imagined a confrontation that would leave Emily rattled, a moment where she would see the consequences of her actions. I wanted her to experience a taste of her own medicine. As I plotted, I felt a dark sense of satisfaction. It was time to make my move. The day dragged on, each hour feeling like an eternity as I devised my revenge plan. I didn't want to act impulsively. I needed to be calculated and precise. The revelations of Emily's infidelity weighed heavily on my mind, and I sought solace in anger rather than despair. I began to think about the things I could do to ensure she felt the sting of betrayal as deeply as I did. I started with the small details. I created a fake social media profile using a different name and profile picture. I wanted it to look believable, just like someone who could be part of Emily's world. I chose a name that sounded both friendly and enticing, Alex Hunter. To make it more appealing, I fabricated a story about myself, claiming to be a successful young entrepreneur who thrived on adventure and spontaneity. As I began to interact with Emily online, I crafted messages that highlighted everything she seemed to crave: a sense of adventure, charisma, and an understanding of her frustrations. I complimented her intelligence and beauty, things I used to tell her often but had now become distant memories. The idea was to get her intrigued, to draw her in slowly and let her become enchanted by this new friend. I carefully monitored Emily's social media activity, looking for posts and pictures that would allow me to tailor my messages. I knew she loved hiking, art, and the occasional cocktail at trendy bars. I used that knowledge to engage her, sending messages about great hiking spots and art galleries I had discovered. The first few responses were tentative, but as I continued to build rapport, Emily began to open up. What shocked me most was how quickly she engaged. The thrill of this new interaction seemed to awaken something in her. I could see it in her messages, the excitement in her words, the way she would share details about her life and work. I felt like a puppet master, pulling the strings, having fun while the reality of her betrayal sat like a heavy weight in my chest. As our online conversations grew more flirtatious, I started to sow the seeds of doubt in her mind. I dropped hints about having a mutual friend, someone in the marketing industry who might know her. That way, if I ever needed to confront Emily about her infidelity, I could have the perfect witness to back up my claims. I wanted to set the stage so that my revelation would hit her like a punch to the gut. But revenge wasn't the only thing on my mind. I was conflicted. Part of me wanted to hurt her for what she had done, but another part of me longed for the love we once shared. It was a battle between my heart and my anger, and for now, anger was winning. The more I interacted with Alex, the more Emily seemed to pull away from her reality. I could feel her excitement through the screen, and it made me question whether my plan would work. Would she really fall for this fabricated version of myself? It was a gamble, but the taste of revenge was too sweet to resist. As I continued my online charade, I prepared for the moment I would confront her. I would bring everything to light, the messages, the photos, the entire facade I had constructed. I envisioned the look on her face when the pieces fell into place. I wanted her to realize that her actions had consequences, that trust once broken could never be restored. To build on my plan, I decided to arrange a meeting between Alex and Emily. It had to be at a location where she would feel comfortable, but also where I could easily observe. I chose a popular cafe downtown, a place I knew she frequented. I could sit in a corner booth, hidden from view, and watch as my wife met the man she believed to be her new confidant. I sent Emily a message from Alex, suggesting we finally meet to discuss some of the ideas I had mentioned in our chats. To my surprise, she responded enthusiastically, suggesting the cafe for our first rendezvous. My heart raced as I read her words. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. As the day of the meeting approached, I felt a mix of anticipation and dread. I knew I was delving deep into dangerous waters. This was no simple act of revenge. It was a betrayal of my own. I was about to manipulate the very woman I claimed to love. I didn't recognize myself anymore, but I was too far gone to turn back. On the day of the rendezvous, I arrived early at the cafe, scouting the area and choosing the best spot to watch. I ordered a coffee and waited, my heart pounding with nervous energy. I had never felt so anxious and exhilarated at the same time. This was the moment my plan would come to fruition, and I was both terrified and excited for what was about to unfold. As I sat there, I could shake off the feeling of impending doom. I was about to watch my wife flirt with a creation of my own making, a man who was everything she had claimed to desire, adventurous, charming, and attentive. I imagined how she would react when she found out that Alex was nothing more than a reflection of her own flaws. Minutes passed like hours, and finally, I saw her walking through the cafe doors, looking radiant as ever. She was dressed casually but elegantly, and I watched as her face lit up with excitement when she saw Alex. My heart raced as I realized I was standing on the precipice of something monumental. I watched from my hidden corner as Emily entered the cafe, her radiant smile illuminating the room. She scanned the area, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. It was surreal to see the woman I once adored so deeply now so entranced by the prospect of meeting someone who didn't even exist. I wanted to scream, to rush out and reveal the truth, but I stayed put. Patience was key, and I had to see this through to the end. Moments later, I saw a tall figure enter. Alex had arrived. I had chosen a profile picture that made him appear charming and rugged, someone who looked confident and successful. He gracefully approached Emily, and I could see the immediate chemistry forming between them. They exchanged smiles and laughter, and for a brief moment I felt a flicker of guilt. Was I really about to ruin this woman's life, even if she had wronged me? The answer was lost in the turmoil of emotions battling inside me. They sat at a small table and I leaned closer, straining to catch snippets of their conversation. "I've heard so much about you," Emily said, her voice laced with excitement. "I can't believe we're finally doing this." I felt the bile rise in my throat as I heard her flirt, her laughter ringing out like a cruel melody. As they exchanged stories, I couldn't help but notice how easily Emily let her guard down. Alex flattered her and brought up topics that lit up her eyes: travel, ambition, and dreams of success. I observed every flicker of her expression. This was the freedom she craved, the thrill of the unknown that I had let slip away. The realization hit me harder than anticipated. She wanted adventure, and I had become a dull routine in her eyes. I took a slow sip of my coffee, trying to calm my racing heart. It was vital not to lose my focus. The time to reveal myself was approaching. I had to wait for the right moment, one that would deliver the maximum emotional impact. I glanced at my phone, mentally timing our encounter. I wanted to make sure I caught them in the act of flirting, to gather irrefutable proof of her infidelity. Suddenly, I noticed Emily lean forward, her hand finding its way to Alex's arm. The intimacy of the gesture sent a jolt of anger through me. My heart thundered in my chest as I felt the anger boil over. I had to keep my cool. I was losing my grip on the very resolve that had got me this far. Minutes turned into an agonizing eternity. I watched as they exchanged flirty banter, and I knew the time was approaching. With every laugh and flirtatious comment, my resolve hardened. I pulled out my phone and recorded a video, capturing their interaction, knowing this would serve as evidence of everything I needed for the confrontation to come. Finally, it happened. Alex leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. I could see Emily's eyes widen with excitement. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation. Suddenly, I stood up and walked towards them, my heart racing. The bright cafe lights felt blinding. The air was thick with tension. I could feel the eyes of the patrons on me as I approached, and I knew this was the climax of everything I had plotted. "Emily," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. She turned, her expression shifting from surprise to shock as she recognized me. I could see the color drain from her face, replaced by a look of pure panic. "Jack, what are you doing here?" she stammered, trying to regain her composure. "Isn't it obvious?" I replied, keeping my gaze locked on her. "I came to see the real you, the one who's been playing with my heart behind my back." I gestured to Alex, who sat frozen, confusion painted across his face. "And you must be Darren's replacement." Emily's eyes darted. Between me and Alex, the realization of my betrayal sinking in. "This is not what it looks like," she exclaimed, her voice rising in pitch. She stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "You have no idea what's going on." "Oh, I think I do," I shot back, pulling out my phone to show her the video I had recorded. "Let's see if you can explain this away. The chemistry, the flirting, what do you call this?" Her gaze dropped to the phone, and I could almost see the panic wash over her. The words fell silent as she processed the evidence of her own betrayal. The cafe around us faded into the background. People were staring, but I couldn't care less. This was the moment I had waited for, and I was not about to back down. "Jack, please, let's talk about this," she pleaded, desperation creeping into her voice. "Talk? About what? How you've been lying to me. How you've been stringing me along while you flirt with someone else. You're not the victim here, Emily." I felt the anger pulse through me, and I didn't care if it showed. "You chose this path. You chose to betray me." Alex chimed in, trying to extricate himself from the chaos. "Look, I didn't know." "Shut up," I snapped, not even acknowledging the man who had stumbled into this mess. This wasn't about him. This was about Emily and the betrayal that had shattered what we once shared. The tension hung heavy in the air as Emily's face fell and tears started to well up in her eyes. "Jack, I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I never meant for it to go this far." "Then why did it?" I shot back, my heart aching at the sight of her tears. "You had everything, Emily. I did everything for you, and this is how you repay me." "I don't know," she replied, her voice trembling. I thought I could find excitement again, something I felt was missing. I didn't mean to hurt you." Her admission struck me like a blow. I felt the anger fade slightly, overshadowed by the immense sorrow creeping in. "You're right," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You didn't mean to hurt me, but you did, and now I don't know how to forgive you." The room fell silent as the weight of my words settled between us. The reality of our situation was crashing down like a tidal wave, sweeping away the remnants of our love. I knew our marriage would never be the same again. With that realization, I turned on my heel and walked away, leaving Emily standing there, grappling with the consequences of her choices. I could feel the eyes of the cafe patrons on me as I exited, but I didn't care. I had executed my revenge, but it felt like a hollow victory. I stumbled out of the cafe, my heart pounding in my chest, a whirlwind of emotions raging inside me. The confrontation had unfolded exactly as I had planned, yet it left me feeling emptier than I ever imagined. I thought that revealing Emily's betrayal would provide closure, a sense of vindication, but instead, it felt like I had shattered not just her world, but mine as well. I climbed into my truck and sat there, gripping the steering wheel tightly. My mind raced with thoughts of what I had done. I wanted to believe that I had done the right thing, but the reality was that I had just turned my marriage into a battlefield. I had laid bare Emily's infidelity in the most public way possible, yet the victory felt bitter on my tongue. I drove aimlessly for a while, passing through the familiar streets of our town, now feeling foreign and alien to me. Everything that had once been comforting, the small cafes, the parks, the streets where we had walked hand in hand, felt tainted by the betrayal that loomed over my heart. Eventually, I pulled over to a deserted park, a place where Emily and I had shared countless memories. I sat on a bench, staring at the ground, my thoughts drifting back to the moments we had shared, the laughter, the warmth, the love. It all felt like a cruel joke now, and I couldn't shake off the feeling of loss. As I sat there, I realized I had to face the consequences of my actions. Emily had already been devastated by the revelation of her betrayal, but now I had left her with an emotional scar that would linger. I had unleashed a storm of hurt and confusion, and it was a storm I couldn't undo. When I returned home later that evening, the silence felt deafening. The house was empty, save for the remnants of our life together, the framed pictures on the walls, her favorite books scattered on the coffee table, the lingering scent of her perfume. I felt a wave of longing wash over me. I missed her even after everything. I missed the woman I fell in love with, not the one who had betrayed me. That night, sleep eluded me. I tossed and turned, replaying the events of the day in my mind. I had sought revenge to alleviate the pain of betrayal, to make Emily understand the weight of her actions, but I hadn't considered the fallout. In the end, what had I truly gained? The next morning, I received an unexpected message. It was from Emily. The text read, "Jack, can we talk? I need to explain." My heart raced as I read her words. Part of me wanted to respond with anger, to tell her there was nothing left to discuss, but another part of me yearned for closure, for understanding. I sat with my phone in hand, deliberating over my response. I couldn't ignore the weight of the past few days. I had to confront not just her actions but also my own. I finally typed back, "Okay, let's meet at the park." When the time came, I arrived early, my heart heavy with anticipation. Memories flooded my mind. The times we'd shared laughter under the trees, the picnics we had, the quiet moments where everything felt perfect. I felt a mix of anger and sadness as I waited for her to arrive. Emily showed up shortly after, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She looked vulnerable, and it struck me just how much we had both lost. "Jack," she began, her voice trembling, "I'm so sorry for everything. I never meant to hurt you. I got caught up in the excitement of my new job, the attention I was receiving. It was foolish and selfish." I took a deep breath, trying to center myself before responding. "You think I care about your excuses? You betrayed me, Emily. You made a choice to cross a line that shouldn't have been crossed." I replied, my voice steadier than I felt inside. "I confronted you because I wanted you to understand how deeply you hurt me, but now I see it's all so complicated." She nodded, her gaze dropping to the ground. "I know I've messed everything up. I thought I was just having fun, and I didn't realize how far it had gone until it was too late. I never stopped loving you, Jack. I thought I could have both, an exciting career and a loving husband, but I was wrong. I felt my heart soften despite the anger and hurt. You know what the worst part is? I asked, my voice lowering. I loved the very idea of you. I believed in us. I thought our love was untouchable, but now I don't know if I can trust you again. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. I just want you to know that facing the truth has made me realize how much I've taken for granted. You're everything I could ever want, and I would do anything to earn your trust back. I remained silent, processing her words. It was hard to reconcile the Emily I had loved with the one who had betrayed me. I felt the longing creep back in, the desire to believe her, but the scars of betrayal still throbbed in my heart. Trust is not something that can be restored overnight, I finally said. I don't know if I can get past this, but I'm willing to try if you're willing to put in the effort too. She looked up at me, hope flickering in her eyes. I will. I promise to do whatever it takes to show you that I'm committed to making this right. I'll work on myself, on us, to regain what we lost. As we sat there in the park, our hearts heavy with the weight of what had happened, I realized that the road to healing would be long and difficult. But perhaps there was still a chance for us, a chance to rebuild if we both were willing to put in the work. The sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park as we exchanged tentative smiles, a flicker of what once was, a hope for what could still be. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the park, I felt a sense of cautious optimism begin to blossom within me. Emily's words were sincere, her vulnerability palpable, but the journey ahead would not be easy. Trust, once shattered, took time to mend, and I knew we had to navigate the aftermath of betrayal carefully. Over the next few weeks, we began to rebuild our relationship, one small step at a time. I insisted on honesty and transparency. Emily agreed, and we established ground rules for our conversations. She began to share more about her feelings and the reasons behind her choices, and I, in turn, let her into my world of hurt, expressing the pain her actions had caused. I found myself gradually letting go of the weight of my anger, even as the memories of that fateful day in the cafe lingered like shadows in my mind. It was hard to forget the moment I had confronted her, the look of shock on her face. But I knew that clinging to that anger would only poison our attempts at healing. Emily also took significant steps to demonstrate her commitment. She distanced herself from Darren and made it clear to her colleagues that she was focusing on rebuilding her marriage. I admired her effort, but I still had moments of doubt. I found it challenging not to second-guess her intentions. Each time her phone buzzed, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. To combat my insecurities, I started seeking support from friends and family. I spoke to my best friend Tom, who had always been my confidant. Man, it's not going to be easy, he told me one evening over beers. But if you both genuinely want this, you'll need to work at it. Just remember that healing takes time. I took his advice to heart. We began to explore new activities together, rekindling the passion we once shared. We took long hikes, visited art galleries, and even tried cooking together, though I quickly learned that neither of us were culinary experts. Each moment was filled with laughter, allowing us to build new memories that slowly began to overwrite the painful ones. Yet, there were still moments of tension, times when old wounds would resurface. One evening, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, Emily's phone buzzed beside her. I felt my heart race, and the silence in the room thickened with unspoken words. I watched as she picked it up, and I could see her face fall momentarily. "It's just a work message," she said quickly, her voice flustered. I couldn't bite back the surge of jealousy that rose within me. "Is it?" I snapped before I could stop myself. "Are you sure it's just work?" Emily's expression hardened as she put the phone down with exasperation. "Jack, I can't keep doing this. I'm trying to prove to you that I'm committed, but I can't be under constant surveillance. I need you to trust me." Her words pierced through my defenses. I took a deep breath, feeling the walls I had built around myself beginning to crack. "You're right," I admitted, my voice low. "I need to let go of the past, but it's hard when I can still feel the betrayal lingering in my heart." We spent the next hour talking, sharing our fears and frustrations. It was a difficult conversation, but it laid the groundwork for a new understanding. I realized that if I wanted to move forward, I had to let go of my resentment. It was a choice I needed to make, not just for Emily but for my own peace of mind. As the weeks turned into months, I noticed a shift in our relationship. Emily became more attentive, open, and willing to communicate. She took the initiative to plan thoughtful surprises, like a weekend getaway to a cabin in the woods, where we could disconnect from our daily lives and reconnect with each other. In that cabin, surrounded by nature, we were able to rediscover the love that had brought us together in the first place. We spent evenings under starlit skies, sharing stories and dreams, reminiscing about the good times and envisioning our future. I could feel the weight of our past slowly beginning to lift, replaced by a tentative hope for what lay ahead. One night, while we sat by the fire, I realized something profound. Love is not just about passion and joy. It is also about resilience and the ability to weather storms together. Emily had made a mistake, but she had also shown remarkable strength in her willingness to confront the consequences of her actions. As the flames danced before us, I reached for her hand. "I think I'm ready to forgive you," I said softly. "I want to move forward, but it's going to take time, and I hope we can both commit to being open and honest with each other from now on." Emily's eyes sparkled with gratitude and a tear slipped down her cheek. "Thank you, Jack. I promise to do everything I can to earn your trust back. You are my priority now." As the fire crackled and the stars shone brightly above us, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We were still together, still fighting for each other, and though the journey ahead wouldn't be easy, I knew we would navigate it side by side. Through the darkness of betrayal, we had found a path toward redemption, a path filled with challenges but also with the promise of a renewed love stronger than before. Together, we would embrace the uncertain future, ready to face whatever came our way, hand in hand. In the end, the scars of the past would always be a part of us, but they would not define us. We were a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the unwavering belief that even the most broken things could be mended with time, effort, and a little bit of faith. And in that moment, under the starlit sky, I knew we had a chance, one worth fighting for.